Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have a brand new deck for you, and just as a quick heads up, this is not a budget deck, although I do think it should be fairly easy to find substitutes for those expensive cards. But before that, just a quick reminder to please click like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers, and every single click counts. And today we're going to be talking about the Fifth Doctor. For 2 colorless, 1 white, and 1 blue, it's a legendary creature Time Lord Doctor 2/2 with Peaceful Coexistence. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control that didn't attack or enter the battlefield this turn, and untap those creatures. Of course, most doctors like to have a companion, and our companion is Adric, Mathematical Genius. For 1 colorless and 1 blue, it's a legendary creature Human Artificer 1/1 with 2 colorless and 1 blue. Tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy, and ultimate sacrifice 1 colorless and 1 blue. Sacrifice Adric, counter target activated or triggered ability. So today I was going to initially make a video on Me the Immortal, but I realized something before publishing that video, a combo that I had actually missed. And you might be wondering why in this deck we're not accessing a 3rd color with our Doctor's Companion, and that is because these 2 cards actually combo and can make a near infinite loop from the command zone, and that is pretty insane. Now maybe you haven't noticed it yet, but if you haven't, here's how it works. You're going to drop Adric early on, probably on turn 2 if you want to, and then on turn 3 or turn 4 you're going to drop the Fifth Doctor. Now what is going to happen then? The Doctor is going to untap any creature that didn't enter the battlefield or attack this turn. That will include Adric. So with that trigger on the stack, you can then use Adric's ability to copy the Doctor's trigger. That means you're going to get 2 triggers on the stack. That's obviously nowhere near infinite, but of course when the first trigger resolves, it's going to untap Adric, which would then allow you to use his ability again. However, you might be saying you need 3 mana to use that ability. That's why most of the deck is a bunch of creatures that tap for mana. When we untap those creatures and Adric, if we have creatures that can create at least 3 mana, and one of which is blue, then we can just go off. We can keep copying the Fifth Doctor's triggers over and over and over, always keeping 1 to copy on the stack, and those creatures are going to get arbitrarily large because they're going to get a +1/+1 counter each time, and we can just very easily win from there. There's actually a ton of cards in the deck that can act as win cons. There's a ton more that I haven't included that could be win cons too, but what surprised me is just how powerful this combination is, because it is a little bit slow, yes, but having both parts of a combo in the command zone means that all you really need is to find mana sources and you can basically go off. We have a bunch of creatures that are going to trigger when they are tapped or untapped, and a bunch of ways to tap our own creatures for value so that we can kind of get these shenanigans going, and really this feels very strong. I'm not sure if it's CDH level because I'm not really familiar with that very much, but it's one of the stronger decks that I've come up with recently, and I just kind of stumbled across it, honestly. If you wanted to make it a little bit less strong, you could maybe take out Adric, put him in the main deck, and then not go the infinite route, and pair a different companion with the Doctor. But if you like combo decks, then this is your lucky day, because this is definitely that. So having explained the combo, let's get started. And for creatures, we're starting off with Arbiter of the Ideal. So we have a lot of ways to tap stuff in our deck, and this Inspire trigger is going to happen a lot with the Fifth Doctor, so it can keep playing stuff from the top of our library for free. Azami, Lady of Scrolls, is fantastic in this deck. We are playing a lot of wizards that we can tap down to draw cards, then they're all going to untap with the Fifth Doctor, so even if we don't have the combo online, we can just accrue a lot of value and a lot of cards with this. This Your Mage is a great way to just kind of draw our entire deck when we're going off. We can also just dump any extra mana we might have if we don't have the full combo into drawing some cards. Clara Oswald is another really sweet card in this deck, so she can just naturally copy the trigger from the Fifth Doctor without need for Adric, but she will only do it once. Still pretty strong though as a value play. Cryptic Trilobite is really sweet. It of course gives us 2 colorless mana that can only be used to activate abilities, but that's what we want with Adric, and the cost is removing a counter which is going to immediately get put back on with the Fifth Doctor, so this fits really nicely. Crystalline Crawler is similarly quite good, although it can't really provide that much mana by itself. It's just good as one of the 3 mana sources we need to start our combo rolling. Devout Chaplain should almost always be online, seeing as Adric itself is a human. Drowner of Secrets is a great way for us to finish the game. We have quite a few merfolk in the deck as well, but really we only need 1 or 2 if we've already got our infinite untaps on to mill everybody out. Battle Sage is a good way to draw cards. All we need is one of our engines to tap our creatures down. Galecaster Colossus is a good card if we're not going infinite, but if we are going infinite, it basically does as I Cyclonic Rift impression. Ghostly Pilferer is a great way to use all of those extra mana and untaps that we're going to be getting. We can pay 2 mana every time this gets untapped to draw a card. Gold Mirror is one of our mana dorks. Grimoire Thief is a really good way to finish off the game because it's going to exile the top 3 cards of an opponent's library whenever it becomes tapped. That should end the game in quick order if we're going infinite. Hedron Crawler is just another good mana dork. Judge of Currents can put us out of any kind of damage or burn range. If we get one of these creatures out early, we can gain a lot of life, which should give us plenty of time to assemble our combo. Mannequin is another mana dork for 2 mana. Moonfog Puzzle Maker is another good one that we can keep tapping to scry and make sure we find gas in our deck. Omen Hawker is actually one of the best cards in the deck once we've got our engine online because it provides us 2 mana and one of it is blue, and it can only be used to activate abilities, but that's what we want it for anyway. Oresco's Sun Guide is another card that's going to gain us a ton of life to make sure that we're safe. Ornithopter of Paradise is another mana dork. Palladium Mirror is another mana dork that is going to provide 2 mana, pretty good here. Pippin, Guard of the Citadel, can provide some decent protection for all of our combo pieces. It can also allow us to get in for some damage by making something unblockable before untapping it later. Plague Mirror is just another mana dork. Sunlight Herbalist is a fantastic card in this deck. It's going to gain us a life and scry every time it becomes tapped. That's going to happen a lot. Silver Mirror is another mana dork, and you might be noticing that we have a ton of these, and that's because that's all the ramp we're running in the deck, and really these are all perfect. 2 drops curve into our commander on turn 4, and they get untapped by a commander, so they're just the perfect fit for this deck. Sphinx's Disciple is one of the best cards in the deck because when it becomes untapped, we're going to draw a card, and again, that should be happening a lot when we have our engine online. Stony Brook Schoolmaster is an alternative win condition that's also going to make some Merfolk tokens, which synergize quite well with the deck. Surge Spanner is a great way to finish off the game because we can return any permanent to its owner's hands. This includes lands, so it can basically be a better Cyclonic Rift once we're infinite. Tradewind Rider is going to be super solid in this deck because we can tap it and 2 other creatures to bounce any problem permanents to hand. All of these cards are great when you're infinite, and they're also good whilst you're trying to stall the game and get there. Unctus Grand Metatech allows us to sift through our library at an incredible speed. It can also allow us to beat in for a little bit of damage if we really need to. Urza Lord High Artificer is fantastic in this deck because we have a bunch of artifacts that can then all tap for blue, so it's effectively giving us the mana that we need, and then we can also use the mana generated if we've gone infinite to just start Mind's Desiring. And Val Candlekeep Research taps for 3 colorless mana. That's great in this deck, and it means that we only need to find 1 blue to have the mana that we need for our combo. For artifacts, we've got Hairstrung Koto. This is another way to finish the game, and it's a really good way to guarantee that we can tap our creatures on demand. Very good card in the deck. Honor Worn Shaku is going to allow us to tap any legendary creatures we have to add 1 colorless, so it's a great part of the combo. Lightning Greaves is just protection for Adric or the Fifth Doctor. Relic of Legend is a much better version of Honor Worn Shaku because it's going to give us blue mana. Smuggler's Copter is going to allow us to tap any creature in the deck on demand. That works very well with all of our combos. It can also get in for some damage early on. Springleaf Drum is a way to tap a creature, although it is only going to do it once per turn. It's still nice to be able to filter and get a mana of any color. Sting the Glinting Dagger is for when we're playing a fair game and we're not going off. We can get multiple activations of any of our useful cards. Swiftfoot Boots is more protection for any of the pieces of our combo. TARDIS is another kind of fair card that's going to allow us to cascade as long as we have the Fifth Doctor out, but it also just allows us to tap our creatures on demand, which is something we want. And 1000 Year Elixir is good in this deck, but it's not as good as you might initially think because we don't untap creatures that have just entered the battlefield this turn. That being said, I think it's still definitely good enough to play. I'm not really going to go into detail on all of the instants we're running because they're very redundant. We're just running a ton of protection spells because obviously we want to make sure our board survives. We are also running a lot of counter spells because of course that's a great way to make sure we can protect our combo. And then we're also running a bunch of removal because we do want to stall the game out until we can really go off, and we want to be able to interact with our opponents. For enchantments, we are playing Opposition, which is obviously great in this deck. It gives us a way to play fair and a way to go off by allowing us to tap down our opponent's creatures, which is great when we're playing a fair game, but it's also just a way to tap any of our creatures on demand for free, which just allows us to totally go off with Adric and the Fifth Doctor. Finally, Training Grounds is a great card that's going to reduce Adric's cost by 2, so it basically guarantees that we only need 1 mana dork to go off. As for lands, we're playing Inventor's Fair, which is a great way to search up a combo piece that we might need. I particularly like it being able to search up mana dorks and being able to search up vehicles or Relic of Legends that can just give us the mana that we need or a way to tap our creatures. It also searches up a lot of our finishers such as Hairstrung Kodo, so it can basically be a really good toolbox in this deck. Calms Bastion is there in case we're really desperate and have to play a fair game, which, by the way, this deck can totally do because your creature's going to get huge with all the +1/+1 counters on them. Reliquary Tower is there to make sure that if we can't finish the game instantly, we just don't end up with a huge hand that we have to discard. Strip Mine is there to interact with our opponent's problem lands, and War Room can draw some cards for a price if we are desperate for some extra card advantage. So there you have it. That has been my The Fifth Doctor and Adric Mathematical Genius deck tech. It's been a pretty short deck tech because honestly the deck is just redundancy. You just have protection and interaction and a bunch of ways to make mana, and you can kind of finish the game in multiple different ways. Obviously you could still go the classic ways of Thassa's Oracle and Lab Maniac if you wanted to go even more competitive, or you could even include Pinger effects in blue and just finish the game by damage, which would be really sweet as well. There's actually just so many different ways that you could build this, and they're all incredibly powerful. So let me know what you think about the deck. Are there any things that you would have added or any things that you think I shouldn't have included? Do let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care. Woo!